Switch Radio Sport. This is Switch.
Worcester City win that game and they will be in Division 1 Midlands next season.
Chance in ball to Job's got chance in penalty, gets shot in and goes to the back of the net, and Cheyenne Jarvis gets the second goal for Leafland Athletic this afternoon, found space in the 6-yard box.
Back to the edge of the penalty area with the pass, cross in towards the back post, headed goalwards and in!
That's a great shot from De Castro! Oh, what a save for Gray! And Lincoln 2-0!
Stourbridge have won the Division 1 Midlands title.
The Women's Football Chat on Switch Radio.
Good evening, welcome along to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every week bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League. And as you can tell behind me, the board has been filled in with the first 7 weeks of the season. The new fixtures were released this week. 3 cup group games are already on the board as well. They're all within the first 7 weeks of the season, and it was very interesting group drawing, which we'll go through later on in the show. Coming up then, we've got the latest news from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That is the FA Women's National League, including a big name change for one of the sides. We've got the semi-final draw for the Women's Football Chat Summer Knockout. We're down to just 4 sides left, and we will go through all of the opening day fixtures plus the groups for the FAWNL Cup and Plate for this year. So plenty to come on this week's show. We're going to start though with that big name change news, and it has come in Lincoln, who have announced that Lincoln City, relegated to Tier 5 last season, and Lincoln United have come together to announce Lincoln Women FC, and they're calling this a new era for women's football in Lincoln. They now say that women's football in Lincolnshire has an exciting future, with the 2 leading clubs in the county coming together to form a strategic collaboration under the umbrella of Lincoln Women FC. The new partnership is created by Lincoln City and Lincoln United, agreeing to work together at senior level as part of the Memorandum of Understanding agreed between the 2 clubs this summer. Now, City's Chief Executive Liam Scully said that we found, despite the great intentions from both City and United, we were effectively diluting the potential for a team representing Lincoln, with players, coaches and resources effectively split between the 2 sides. What they're saying there essentially is, rather than having a really good FAWNL side in Lincoln, they have 2 okay sides in Lincoln. I mean, Lincoln City really struggled last year, but that's what they've been saying. So in working together, we aim to create the environment and structure for a women's team to successfully challenge at Tier 4 and in time establish themselves at Step 3. So they are anticipating that this kind of merger, agreement, new way of working together, whatever you want to call it, will see them into the Northern Premier Division in the future. They say that this gives opportunity for women from the area to play at the highest possible level and give women and girls in Lincolnshire an identity to inspire them. At the same time, we aim to have a fluid and dynamic pathway that ensures players are given opportunity to participate in competitive games programs at the appropriate level for their development. So, under the Lincoln Women collaboration, there are going to be 3 teams. The most senior side competing in Division 1 Midlands. Then there is another side that's going to be competing in Step 5, and then another side in Step 6. That's what they are saying. So you've got the senior side still playing at where Lincoln United currently play, but with the commitment to having 2 games at the LNER Stadium. So they're going to have 3 teams an A team, a B team, and a C team is what I understand. That's how it's going to be, and that will be in tiers 4, 5, and 6, which is interesting because, as we know from the whole discussion with PGA sides and B team sides and development sides coming in the pyramid, when all that discussion was coming at the end of last season, they weren't allowed to be within 2 leagues of the team of the first team. So this doesn't match what is supposedly the FA rules. And there's interesting bits to go along with that, in that when you look at the messages that have come out, sorry, not the messages, like the graphics have come out from teams that they will be playing this season. From the teams that have put their fixture graphics out, about half of them are calling them Lincoln Women, about half of them are still calling them Lincoln United. The league are still calling them Lincoln United. I've had a couple of comments come through that say they didn't get that name change through and approved in time for the AGM, and therefore they're not allowed in the competition to be called Lincoln Women. They have to be Lincoln United. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how that plays out. I noticed on all of the league graphics that they are down as being called Lincoln United and with the old logo. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's happened, because we know in the past that the league does not have a fantastic record of getting these things right, although it is a lot better now. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens then. The best way I can kind of come up with is, and it came up to me at work a couple of weeks ago with a quiz that was played out on the radio, was that not everywhere is recognised by everybody else in the world. So, for example, there are some regions which a few countries see as independent countries, but the vast majority of the world see as a region, county, call it what you will, of a larger country. And that seems to be what is happening here. Lincoln United, Lincoln City, they've come out and said, we are now Lincoln Women. Some people seem to have said, no, you're not, you're Lincoln United, we're calling you Lincoln United. Some people have said, okay, you're Lincoln Women, we're going to call you Lincoln Women. So it is going to be an interesting one to see exactly how that works in the coming weeks and months, particularly in the lead up to the season. Do the graphics then change? Has it just been a case of, some teams just haven't been keeping a tab on it and they weren't aware of this change? Are some actively saying, no, that's not right? It's going to be very interesting to look at. On this show, we're going to call them Lincoln Women. That is what the club have said they are called. That's what they're identifying as. Therefore, that's what I'm calling them. So they will be Lincoln Women on this show. You can see away to my right-hand side on the screen, the new logo is on the map. So while we're calling them Lincoln Women, but that is the situation with them. It is one that, say, could certainly, if you go to away grounds and on the tannoy they're calling them Lincoln United, it might irk them a bit, see what the situation is. But the interesting thing here is that they don't seem to be playing by the rules that the FA have set out, in the sense of, they say we've got a senior team in tier 4, then we've got a team in tier 5 and a team in tier 6, which they're not allowed to do under the rules of the FA competitions. But again, it's kind of one we might have to see how it plays out. But as I mentioned in that, fixtures have been released. We have, put them in with pencil from like November onwards, really. But the first couple of months of the season is pretty much set in stone before the weather comes in, the cups come in, the county cups come in and everything like that. So until that happens, the first few weeks and a couple of months are pretty much set in the schedule. Let's have a look at the Northern Premier Division. So Burnley start their campaign at home to Middlesbrough. Hull City take on Halifax. Liverpool Feds host Wolverhampton Wanderers. Loughborough Lightning, after their promotion, they get a home game against West Bromwich Albion. Good opportunity for them to get on the board nice and early. Rugby Borough hosting Derby County. County, Stoke City at home to Sporting Cowser. So Loughborough Lightning, a home tie against West Bromwich Albion, the newly promoted side. Good opportunity for them. Middlesbrough with probably one of the toughest away trips you can get, alongside the trip down to Wolves, away at Burnley to start their start their Northern Premier Division campaign. In the Southern Premier Division, AFC Bournemouth, newly promoted from Division 1 South West, they start their campaign at home to Billericay Town, whilst Real Bedford make the trip to AFC Wimbledon. Oxford United go over into Wales to take on Gwalior United, while Cheltenham Town host Exeter City in a bit of a local derby there, or as local as you can get really. Lewis against Watford over there, and then #United making that very long trip down to Plymouth Argyle for their opening game of the season. Division 1 North, Blackburn Rovers, they are in trouble as well. We'll go into that in a few moments' time, but they host Cheadle Town Stingers on the opening day. Huddersfield Town against Doncaster Rovers Bells. Doncaster, of course, were given that reprieve last season. Leeds United take on Chorley. Norton Stockton Ancients have a local derby against Chester Street Town. Stockport County welcome newly promoted side Wythenshawe, and Durham Sestra take on York City away from home. Yes, Blackburn Rovers have had some difficulties here. There's a few different reports going around, but what we've seen online is that they've held a couple of trials. Only 20 players showed up for those trials, of which 6 were goalkeepers, and apparently only 5 are have been deemed FAWNL quality from what we've been seeing on social media. So there is a real concern around Blackburn Rovers, not only have they dropped down by 2 tiers to go into tier 4, but there is this concern that they might not even be able to field a side in tier 4, which could leave Division 1 North, particularly this late before the start of the season, with a team short for the 25-26 season. But we'll see what happens with that one. That, of course, would have a big impact on the relegation down towards the bottom, and all sorts of things surrounding that. So that will be one to keep an eye on. Of course, as soon as there is any news, then at W Football Chat on X or on our TikTok account, Women's Football Chat is the place to go. Had 70,000 views on one of the most recent TikToks, so plenty of action going on over there as well. Division 1 Midlands, their newly promoted sides, Sheffield and Kidderminster Harriers, come up against each other on the opening day of the season. Barnsley Women's host Worcester City. Lincoln Women host Boldmere St Michael's. Northampton Town against Leafield Athletic. 2 sides near the top last season go at it again right at the start of this campaign. Notts County against Peterborough United, and Sutton Coldfield Town take on relegated side Stourbridge. Division 1 South East, AFC Sudbury against Chatham Town. Chesham United take on London Bees. Fulham, newly promoted side, take on Cambridge United. Luton Town, the other promoted side from Tier 5, host Dulwich Hamlet. Milton Keynes Dons, coming down from the Southern Premier Division, take on Queen's Park Rangers. And Norwich City, who just missed out on promotion last year, take on Actonians. And Division 1 South West, Bournemouth Sports against Abingdon United. Newly promoted Ascot United will travel to Bristol Rovers for the opening day of the season. And Marine Academy Plymouth are on the road as well. They take on Keynsham Town. Moneyfields, they were a very strong side last season. Had it not been for Bournemouth's great run, and all season long, I call it a run, just great performance all year, they could well have got themselves promotion, but they take on Bridgewater United. Portishead Town face Worthing, and Swindon Town take on Maidenhead United. So those are the league fixtures for the opening day of the season. Now we go straight into cup action after that. We have the opening round on the 17th of August is the opening day of the FAWNL season. And then we go straight in midweek to the FAWNL Cup and Plate groups. Here they are, 22 of them with 88 teams involved. The 72 FAWNL sides plus 16 PGA sides. Now, they are kind of pretty much split north and south. But it does get complicated as we've gone through. We have these 22 group winners, 10 second places, then the remainder of the second places and 20 best third places. But I have had it confirmed from the FA this morning that there is no seeding from the knockout stage onwards, because the seeding has essentially been done in the group stage. Therefore, it is possible that two teams that win all three of their group games then come up against each other in the first round of the knockout. It is just luck of the draw. So let's go through the FAWNL Cup groups. So Group A, Bridgewater United, Bristol Rovers, Marine Academy Plymouth and Plymouth Argyle. A Southern Premier Division side in Plymouth, and then 3 South West sides. Group B, Exeter City of the Southern Premier Division with Abingdon United and Portishead Town of South West and the Southampton PGA side. Group C, Gwalia of the Southern Premier Division, Bristol City Academy, Keynsham Town and Swindon of Division 1 South West. Group D, Brighton and Hove Albion Academy, Lewis of the Southern Premier Division, Fulham of South East and Worthing of South West. But of course, Worthing are very much kind of over on the east side. Group E is Ascot United, Bournemouth Sports and Moneyfields of South West with AFC Bournemouth of the Southern Premier Division. Group F is a Midlands-based group of Cheltenham Town of the Southern Premier Division, Kidderminster Harriers and Worcester City of Division 1 Midlands, plus the Birmingham City Academy. Group G is very much Londonish based. You've got Billericay Town in the Southern Premier Division, AFC Sudbury and Chatham Town in Tier 4 and London City Lionesses Academy. Group H is AFC Wimbledon of the Southern Premier Division with the Chelsea Academy, Actonians and Maidenhead United. Group I is Hashtag United of the Southern Premier Division, London Bees and Dulwich Hamlet in Tier 4 and Crystal Palace. Group J is Watford of the Southern Premier Division, QPR and Chesham United of Division 1 South East and the Charlton Athletic Academy. Group K is Rugby Borough and Loughborough Lightning of the Northern Premier Division, Northampton Town of Division 1 Midlands and the Arsenal Academy, so quite a trek for Arsenal 3 times. Group L is Real Bedford of the Southern Premier Division and then Cambridge United, Norwich City of South East and Peterborough United of the Midlands. Group M is Oxford United of the Southern Premier Division, MK Dons and Luton Town of South East and the Spurs Academy. Group N is West Brom of the Northern Premier Division, Stourbridge and Leafield Athletic of Division 1 Midlands and the Leicester City Academy. Group O, Sporting Cowser of the Northern Premier Division, Bolmere St Michael's and Sutton Coldfield Town of Division 1 Midlands and the Aston Villa Academy. Group P, Derby County of the Northern Premier Division and then Lincoln, Notts County and Sheffield, all of Division 1 Midlands. Group Q, Wolves and Stoke of the Northern Premier Division, Manchester United's Academy and newly promoted Wythenshawe. I'm going to say Group Q is the group of death for Wythenshawe, because that is probably one of the hardest groups you could possibly get. Manchester United Academy, who made the semi-finals of the Plate last year, Wolves, who just missed out on promotion to the Championship, and Stoke, who have also gotten a lot stronger over summer as well. Group R is the Liverpool Academy with Liverpool Feds, Stockport County and Cheadletown Stingers, all of Division 1 North. Group S is Hull of the Northern Premier Division with Barnsley Women's, Doncaster Rovers Bells and Sheffield United's Academy. Group T, Burnley of the Northern Premier Division with Blackburn in Division 1 North alongside Chorley and Huddersfield, both of the same league. Group U is Halifax of the Northern Premier Division. We've got Leeds United, Norton Stockton Ancients and York City. And then Group V, finally, is Middlesbrough of the Northern Premier Division, Durham Sestra, Chester Street Town, and then the Sunderland Academy to make up Group V. So those are the 22 groups. So out of those 22 groups, the 22 group winners go straight through into the cup alongside the 10 best ranked runners up in those 22 groups. That is on points, then goal difference, then goals scored. Again, there is no seeding in it. It's just the 10 best of those 22. Then into the plate is the remaining runners up, and then the 20 best third placed side. So unless you are one of the bottom 2 ranked third placed sides, you are going to make it through into the plate competition. So of the 88 teams, 64 of them will progress. Now, it is possible, it probably won't happen, but it is possible that a team finishing third in their group scores more points than a team finishing second in their group. That is just the luck of the draw. It is also possible that just 1 point out of your 3 group games is enough to see you through into the plate competition. Equally, there is a possibility, again, not really going to happen, but you could secure 7 points from your 3 games and end up in the plate as well. Very, very unlikely that that happens, but mathematically it is possible. We might well see a bit more of a split here of PGA sides over several games. You're looking at some of those groups. It is expected, you would think, that the tier 3 side ends up topping the group. We have seen that, yes, the PGA sides were doing well in the plate last year. They were beating some of these tier 4 sides. However, when they came up against a tier 3 side in Cheltenham, or a good tier 4 side, or an excellent, should I say, tier 4 side in Bournemouth, the way they were last season, they came unstuck. So you would suspect that the tier 3 sides would top the vast majority of these groups. Where there is multiple tier 3 sides, you'd expect them to probably take the top 2 positions. And that is kind of where the seeding has come from in these group stages, which is why we don't then have it in the knockout stages. You do then get that weird thing of, well, after the first 2 rounds, and I've got a full ranking graphic I will put up after those first 2 rounds. If you know you're going to be in the cup, there is no actual advantage to topping your group. Now, I'm not saying that teams will actively try and finish second. What I'm saying is that because there is no... See, it's not like where we get into the cup stage, into the knockout stage, and it gets split north and south, and they go, right, teams A to H, they finished as the best ranked in the group stages. They're going to be seeded 1 to 8, and they're going to play randomly, but seeds 9 to 16. That's not happening. The 2 teams that both win all 3 of their group games could then come up against each other in the first round. So, not saying that teams will actively try and finish second because there's no advantage to doing that. What I'm saying is you might find, if you have come through a couple of tough games and won them both, you might make quite a lot of changes for your final group game, rest some players because that game, if you're pretty sure you're going to be in the cup, that game almost doesn't matter as much as some of the others. I'm thinking, with the best will in the world, let's look at Group E and AFC Bournemouth. Let's say that they win their first couple of games, and I can double check actually the order of their games just to make sure that I'm being fair here. Group E is AFC Bournemouth. They are facing... Okay, so let's say they win their first 2 games, which is Bournemouth Sports and Moneyfields, both at home. With the best will in the world, and with no disrespect in any way to Ascot United, you would expect AFC Bournemouth in a game against Ascot United to win that game. If they have come through and they have beaten Moneyfields and they have beaten Bournemouth Sports, and they are on 6 points and they are at the top of the group, would you, as Bournemouth, rest some players for the game against Ascot United? there will be groups where everything is to play for on that final game. There may be groups where everything's kind of been decided. Let's say, for example, two teams who are playing on the final match day both win their first two games. Let's say that. So you've got let's just say Wolves and Stoke. They play each other last. I don't actually know if they do. I'll check that as well. But we'll say for this sake of argument that they do. And they've both won the first two games each. So they are going to... So they're both on 6. And then Man U and Wivenshaw are both at the bottom. Now, they play Stoke first, but it doesn't really matter. If you've got a group where two teams are on 6 and then two teams are on 0, if you get 6 points, you're progressing. Do you particularly want to be in the cup, particularly in the plate? If you get 6 points, it's difficult to say, but then you might have quite a good chance of going through into the cup, because you've got to win 2 of your 3. Are half of the runners-up going to win 2 of their games to prevent you from getting into the cup? Then what do you... If you know you're definitely going to be in the top 2... Particularly if you played out a draw, one of you would end up first. 7 points would get you into the cup. If you then played out a draw in your final game, you know going into that game that the chances are you're both through. It will be an interesting one. And then the other interesting thing to look at, in Group T, if everything goes wrong with Blackburn, as some of the online reports have suggested, what happens there? Because the only fair way then would be to mathematically work everybody out as a per game stat, because Burnley, Chorley and Huddersfield will have had one less game in order to rack up goals for a goal difference, score points, score goals. So you can't then say, well, you're the lowest ranked because they've had one game less to try and make that margin up. So do you then have to go through the other 21 groups and do it on a per game basis? And that's something that has to be known before the start of the season, because otherwise, if groups have, just gone, okay, look, we're 3-0 up and we'll just sit back, and then actually you end up on that cusp and you're in the plate, not the cup, because of a per game rota against a Burnley side who only played, a 2 games, not 3, but they won them both 5-0, and therefore their goal difference average is 5 and yours is 4.5 or whatever. A lot to be decided, a lot to still know, and we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. But everything is not necessarily rosy in the FAWNL. We'll keep across everything over the next few weeks as it happens. A request to clubs, please. Please, nobody else change their logo between now and the start of the season. I've made the intro video 4 times this summer now, as teams drip feed new logos through. So please, just nobody else change their logo between now and the start of next season. Right. Let's do the semi-final draw for the Women's Football Chat Summer Knockout 2025. We have just 4 teams left, and I have changed somewhat only because the box after a few years has kind of finally met its demise. So I've got a bowl with the 4 balls in there, so I'll give that a bit of a shake round, and we'll get our semi-final draws there. Let's have a look at the ball numbers. They are: number 1 is Abingdon United, 2 is Halifax, 3 is Kidderminster Harriers, and 4 is Leafield Athletic. So if I turn away and then drop a ball, let's put that back in. So I'll turn away and I'll mix the balls up. And number 1 is Abingdon United. Abingdon United, they will face in the semi-final. Number 2, that was Halifax. So Abingdon United against Halifax. And then this order doesn't matter. it will be number 4, Leafield Athletic, against number 3, Kidderminster Harriers. So, Abingdon United against Halifax and Kidderminster Harriers against Leafield Athletic. We have got then the Northern Premier Division and reigning champions of Halifax against Division 1 South West Abingdon United, and then the all Division 1 Midlands semi-final tie of Leafield Athletic against Kidderminster Harriers. And that will do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. As I said, plenty to go through. We've got new names, groups. How's the groups going to work? It could get messy. It could just work out absolutely fine. Who knows? And of course, that semi-final draw that we've just done for the Women's Football Chat Summer Knockout. The voting for that is open now and will go through until 6 p.m. on Sunday, at which point voting will shut and we will have our 2 finalists. You're voting with likes and with reposts on @WFootballChat, so you can cast up to 2 votes per tie. You're voting for your favourite FAWNL side, with just 4 left now, including the reigning champions Halifax. Will they be able to do what no other side has done and go back to back? I'll be back next Thursday evening with all of the very latest from the FAWNL as the start of the season ticks ever closer. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.